Well, hey guys, welcome to a very special edition of, I used to call it Face to Face with JLW, but today we have a very special guest. It's Gordy Robinson from the NMRA. Also, Lucy from the NMRA may be joining us later, and I'll bring her on in. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but first, Gordy, thanks for taking the time. I know you're 5 or 6 hours ahead of my time zone, so thanks for taking the time to talk to us and make yourself available for some Q&A here today.
Oh, that's fine. You're very welcome. It's good to be here.
So we'll start with kind of a backstory, if you will. Uh, the NMRA and I have done a lot of things with the NMRA, sometimes not even with their approval, just covering their train shows and such, going back to, I believe, 2012 or maybe even before then. So I'm familiar with the shows, and I was an NMRA member at one time, and there was some kind of rough patches there. But when I thought back to the rough patches, I thought that realized I kind of had a light bulb, and I'm like, there's a different sheriff in town. Gordy is the new president, and as in newer than when I had the problems, and I really shouldn't be holding any grudges or being upset at the NMRA because they have a whole new leadership in place and a whole new perspective, and they're more geared towards not just a certain demographic in the hobby, but everybody in the hobby, geared towards positivity, getting things out there. And that was a legitimate light bulb moment for me that came on. Light bulb came on. It's like, the NMRA needs another chance, and I want to get the NMRA here on camera to kind of talk about several things. So, Gordy, if you want to take a second, I already kind of gave away that you're the president of the NMRA, but if you want to talk about kind of what your responsibilities entail as the NMRA president before we move on to some other questions, I'd appreciate if you want to do that.
Yeah, sure. So the NMRA, which is the National Model Railroad Association, not the National Mustang Racing Association. Be careful with your Googling of NMRA there. We obviously the organization itself is 88 years old, so it's 90 years old in 2025. And I think I'm the youngest and the first overseas president that the organization's ever had. So it's not a surprise really that the leadership changes. I don't know. People watch the TikTok memes. There's a great comedian in the US that does European boss, and then he does a US boss, and you see the comparisons. It's like US team, we've got to work all night. European team, it's like we got to go home on time. And it's kind of that kind of mentality. So I guess there's a little bit difference in leadership, just from the different approaches of being somebody from Europe with a kind of different background. But I grew up in the hobby. I've said this a lot. Before now, my father was a manufacturer, so I've always been around model trains. It's been unavoidable. In fact, me and my brother were just replying to a historical society that was asking some questions about some of my dad's kits in their AGM just a few weeks ago. So we were writing a letter back to the secretary the other day. And I've always been around. When I was a teenager, I kind of stumbled across the NMRA through a friend of my father's, and he took me to the division meeting, and I never knew what it was, and never knew you had to pay. And the guys paid for me, and they helped me with my AFA and Blue Box kits, and they taught me so much stuff, and it was just all about giving, and it wasn't about taking it. And I think that's what the NMRA is still at its heart, at its core. That's what we're all about. So the role of president, I'm the president of the organization. We've got three other officers. We've got a secretary, a treasurer, who's known as the CFO, because it is a big organization. And we've got a vice president, Rick Coble, who is in Atlanta, Georgia. So the rest of the team, the rest of the officers are all based in the US. We've got our headquarters there in Soddy Daisy, which is not far from yourself. Our little warehouse that's got lots and lots of archives in it, and lots of layouts and museum displays and all kinds of stuff. We have a small employed staff that work there to make sure that membership stuff gets done, and all the necessities of legal audits and all kinds of stuff that any organization of our size has to do all happens, and they're a great team there. And then we've got 9 directors who represent members from all over the world, because we're a global organization. We're the only global model railroad or model railway organization that exists. There is no other one. The closest thing to us is the International Plastic Modelers Society. I don't know if anyone's familiar with those guys, the IPMS, all the military models and stuff. So we've got 9 directors. 6 of those are in North America, 1 in Europe, 1 in Pacific, and then we've got 1 who is worldwide. And currently, for the second time, because I was the first one, for the second time, we've got an overseas person in the worldwide director role as well. So 9 people total that all I report to, I suppose, as the president. They are the board of directors, and then we've got various department heads as well. So it's quite a big team. The national team, when we go anywhere, we fill about 20 hotel rooms, and we double up in hotel rooms. So it's almost 40 people. It's about 30, 35 people. It's quite a big team.
Well, that's good to hear. It sounds like it's a well-oiled machine, and I know you've been making some changes from past approaches to kind of tweak how the NMRA is going to be involved in the hobby in the future. What would you say are some of the changes that you have plans for in the future to kind of the organization as a whole, if you can reveal those, if they're not like, under veil?
Oh, nothing secret squirrel. We have no competition, so it's not a secret squirrel situation. So I think one of the main key areas that the NMRA's got to look at is how we operate sustainably in a changing world. And it really is a changing world. And I was reading something today that next year's crop of high school students in England will be the last crop, or it's either next year or the year after. I think it's next year, will be the final crop going through their end of high school exams who were affected by the pandemic lockdowns. So, and then the group of the year after, and then that'll be it. So it kind of feels really close to the pandemic, but we're still quite far. It's kind of history now. And so for the younger people that are going in, that have been in high school in a few years' time, they'll have never been in high school during a lockdown. So it's kind of weird. And you think, well, wow, that's in our head. But we've got to look at the pain points that are affecting our organization. So our current age profile is not conducive to a sustainability situation. If we're really honest, if we don't do something about our current age profile and start encouraging people of all ages to be members of the NMRA, in about 10 years' time, we'll be a much smaller organization. We've kind of got a cliff edge that we're heading towards, and it will suddenly drop off at the end of this decade, and it will be very hard in the middle of the next one. We know that there's a squeeze on people's fixed incomes. A significant number of NMRA members are retired, and they're living on a fixed income. Not all of them are living on a massive amount of money, sitting in significant investments. It kind of would only take probably one more recession to wipe all that out. So people are struggling and people are on a squeeze. So we've got to look at that. We're getting squeezed as well as costs increase and inflation has come down, but it's been quite high. The costs, therefore, of attending and participating post-pandemic, I don't know if anybody's tried to book a venue for a train show, but the prices have gone through the roof and they ain't coming back down again, because once the price goes up, it doesn't come down. It's kind of like gas prices. They go up and very quickly and come down very slowly, but rental goes up very quickly and stays there, and that's difficult. Hotel rooms are more expensive than they were pre-pandemic, etc. So that then leads into how do we deliver services to our members, and you'll have noticed quite a significant change in that. We've delivered our magazine digitally, and we can get on to talking about some of the changes that we've made, but we would need to continue to look at how we deliver services in a sustainable way to members, and in a way that the next generation of members would want to receive those services, because it's probably not the same as pre-pandemic. And we still have 11,500 people who pay by check every year. Now in the UK, you can't get in a bank account with a checkbook anymore. It doesn't exist. So we've got it. The UK and Canada and Australia have already had to go through this modernization, and the US side is like kind of lagging behind a bit. But the biggest change though that the NMRA is making and has got to make in the future is that it's got to accept that it needs to change. It's this, we don't need to change. It's the way it's always been. And I've always said since I became the president that I won't stop doing things that people value. We might change the way that we do it, but we won't stop it. But we need to change as an organization. So we've done things like forming a digital transformation committee, because digital transformation, AI, really, really important, impacts us operationally, and it's going to impact our hobby massively. I just don't think we realize how much AI is going to massively influence our hobby. And you can already see that generative AI is being used to generate adverts and direct things, you know, in the marketing space, and that's just going to grow into the operational space of model railroads, and I've spoken about that before. So we've formed a digital transformation committee. We've also started to look at making decisions that are based on data and feedback, directly requested feedback, rather than anecdotal information. Some of the decisions in the past that the NMRA made were made based on a gut feeling, and you can't do that. We can't do that when all that data is available to us. So we're making data-driven decisions, certainly around the digital magazine, certainly around contract awards, around decisions that we make around how we deliver services. So that's kind of completely changed already, but it continues to develop and grow. And I want to see the organization be a much more professional organization. It's been run by people that are retired, and that's fine. And the majority of our members are retired people, and they come from a variety of backgrounds, and that's great. But we have a place within the hobby, and we need to be respectful of what our place is and how we support manufacturers and model railroaders. And it's a worldwide thing that we do. Decisions that we make sitting in Texas will impact people in Switzerland and Germany, and particularly people in China who are making the manufacturing products in Taiwan and India. So as part of that, we're looking to make sure that the organization, number one, is responsive. So if people ask us for stuff, we're very, very much about responding to emails. And I always say, if you email me and I don't reply in 72 hours, email me again, because I get 100 emails a day just from the NMRA, and I have a real life as well. We're working, a big focus this year is I've set a challenge of our leadership worldwide to be kind. So to lead with kindness and be kind in the way that we approach how we do things, which I guess is going to hopefully prevent you having experiences, James, similar experiences that you've had in the past, and other experiences that other people have had where we weren't as kind as we should be. And the simple nuances that we do there, the way that we only give feedback when it's requested. We don't give feedback to be criticized. You know, we don't criticize people. In the past, we've been known as rivet counters. The only rivet counters should be the RPM guys, because they really do count the rivets. You know, we shouldn't be going in and immediately coming out with some kind of criticism. You know, we should be letting people, you know, self-critique their own work and then, you know, commenting on it. Also, we're looking at, I want to eradicate the word judgment. It's very critical. I want to eradicate the word assess from our language in the NMRA and change that to evaluate. So we look at what we did, not look at what we didn't do. You know, when you do an evaluation, you look at what you've done. You don't look at what you didn't do. And as an organization, to do that, to be responsive, to be kind, to be out there, means we've got to be brave. And that's hard. So that's a massive cultural change. So those three things are kind of cultural. And then lastly, I suppose a big example of I can give you of where we're currently working on seeking to modernize our operations is that we're currently working very, very hard on how we can provide a monthly subscription-based membership. So it would still be renewing it annually, but you'd be able to pay for it monthly. So that then takes the cost of membership down from, let's say, whatever, $70-ish. It's not quite $70, it's $68. But say it's $70, it takes it down to, you know, less than $7 a month. Say it's $6 something a month, $6 and change a month, right? And that's a lot easier on people's budgets. That's a lot easier to budget. That's what people are used to. If you think about YouTube TV subscriptions, Netflix, Spotify subscriptions, coffee, it's less than it's less than a posh Starbucks at, you know, big Starbucks, whatever thing. I don't drink that stuff, but whatever you go and buy down at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, it's probably going to be cheaper than that. And you do that maybe every morning on your way to work. So we're looking at doing that, and we're also looking at providing a membership that would roll over. So it would just automatically renew if that's what you wanted it to do. Whereas at the moment, we have to send up to 7 reminders. It's a load of administration. It's a load of paperwork, loads of expense just to get you to post as a check, which feels very 1970s and not very 2023. So we're kind of, you know, we won't want to be 1973 anymore. We want to be 2023, and that's subscription-based services and digital services and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on. And a lot to do still.
That be kind message actually struck me. because when I first got in the hobby, it was, being a military guy, you'll understand heavy fire. It was like lots of people attacking me. You don't know what you're talking about. Why are you trying to do videos on this stuff? And then to kind of be in the middle of my hobby journey, or first third of my hobby journey, and see myself kind of taking a critical stance, I had to stop myself and say, you know what, that's actually a really good mantra and a good thing to keep in mind, because there's enough negativity in the hobby with people and forums and such. And I think it's so much easier to be positive and then work to where everybody is welcome in the hobby, which is also a change. I think it's also refreshing for you to say, that your membership can't sustain, and to be realistic about that, because people will ignore it, and then all of a sudden there's nobody in the room. So it sounds like, and you've already proven yourself to an extent with the time you've had and some of the changes you've already made, that things are changing, and there's that history you have to work against, or work to change the reputation of the whole organization, which is kind of tough. But I definitely commend you on the changes you're making, and all of those recognitions, from age groups to technology, to all the different things you're changing, and for the better in the NMRA.
I mean, one of the examples I can give you is last month. Everyone knows now, I think, that I was in the States working. It wasn't an NMRA funded trip, I can tell you. That was a work trip, and I was doing NMRA stuff on top. So I was in Altoona, and we went chasing a train, and I was in the car with two NMRA members who were 10 years younger than me, and I'm 36, so it's quite, that's a thing in itself. And we were rail fanning, and we stopped at a grade crossing, and two other guys jumped out to take a picture of the steam train. Both NMRA members, again, both younger than me, from different divisions, and they were just surprised to see me there, and then they were giving me their feedback, and it was really, really positive. So we are attracting people in. We are seeing that change. It's not just change that I'm making, it's change that's being made at local level, regional level, national level, and I've got a whole team of people that are working really, really hard to drive and deliver that change. It's not just me, obviously, I'm just a figurehead, but it's the change is being driven by everybody. And we're in a position now, the end of November, where we were in our membership at the end of October, and we're not quite the end of November yet. We're up. If we sustain that position, and we're up by enough that we could easily sustain that position through the 31st of December. If we do, that's going to be the first year of positive growth the NMRA's experienced since 1992. That's huge. That's a huge turnaround from where we were, and hopefully it means we've hit a low point and we're on our way back up. But if we don't address things like the current age of the majority of membership, who are tired and are still having to drag themselves, and it's great that they do it, don't get me wrong, but they're having to drag themselves to put on conventions, to put on events that then fewer and fewer people are able to attend because of their own age and their own limitations. It's difficult, and we've got to find a way to turn that around.
Yeah, that's like I said, the first, what they say in the recovering alcoholic or different programs, the first step is to acknowledge the problem. So it's good that you identify and then move on to the different processes of fixing the problem. Where this military had me doing this 8-step problem solving process, and the Six Sigma stuff that drives me up a wall, but it actually makes sense and works if you follow through the steps, and that identification step is key. So let's say I'm a member. I know for a fact, and I'm just going to tell everybody now, I'm going to renew my membership. I'm going to post it as proof that I'm renewing my membership, to put my money where my mouth is, and, to give the NMRA a new chance. But you can't just renew your membership and hope that the NMRA, magically does all these things. The participation is key in the local NMRA divisions and such. But what are some of the things that the NMRA does to help hobbyists kind of behind the scenes, in addition to maybe helping with the different groups or manufacturers or anything that's kind of beneficial to the overall hobby?
Well, there's loads and loads of things that the NMRA does. Fundamentally, everything that we do is all tied into our mission statement, which is to promote the growth of scale model railroading through education and awareness. So we push that really, really hard. So not necessarily do we do all the things I'm going to talk about in every single county of the United States or every county of Australia, like shires in Australia or New Zealand or the UK or even Europe. But we do a lot of this where it's needed and where we're able to do it with the resources that we have. So that one of the biggest things we do nationally, in fact worldwide, really internationally, is we maintain still and develop the interoperability standards from manufacturers. That means that you can put DCC equipment from different people into your locomotives. You can take a wheel set out, and generally it's going to run on the track. It doesn't matter who produced your HO model; it's going to run on HO track if it's to NMRA standards. When you think and you look at one of these big layouts, think how many different individual manufacturers' products all come together. They all still do it from the NMRA standards, and people say, "Oh, the standards have been written." They have been written, but they're always constantly evolving. We're in one of the most innovative hobbies in the world, and we've got over 90 people that work on constantly, volunteers that work on standards and conformance, and over 40 people in the DCC world that just work on the latest DCC thing because everyone keeps asking for another lighting feature. I'm an N scaler. We ain't that bothered. We know there's a limit of how small an LED is going to get, right? We're not that bothered. There ain't that much room under the hood, but the HO guys, they want, lights on everything. They want lights everywhere. And that requires wires everywhere. And it requires, being able to turn those lights on and off individually. We'll come to a point where you'll be able to turn on and off individual dials on a dashboard in a locomotive cab at this rate. So those DCC guys are always working. So that's one of the biggest things that we still do for the hobby. And being an NMRA member, you help contribute to the cost of us continuing to do that. Whether that's reviews, there's 14 people that just do reviews all the time. They do nothing but analyze, review, and provide feedback to manufacturers to help them improve their products and get it to a state through development that can, meet the standards. There ain't no other hobby in the world that does that. There is no other hobby like ours where we've got that. None.
Yeah.
So you can't go and buy a model airplane wing off somebody else and slip it straight onto somebody else's aircraft of the same model without hacking it to bits. It doesn't exist. Doesn't happen. So we've got to remember that. We also locally, all over the place, provide fellowship and education for model railroaders, whether that's through things that we do nationally or whether that's locally. A lot more of that happens locally. This is where your division comes in. We continue to do that. We do it in different ways, some ways quite innovative, some ways quite old school. We've still got the clinics going on, but we've got making takes as well. We have people building layouts together. We have some divisions that provide education, particularly in winter and spring after Christmas, to families, and lots of programs. We talk about youth programs as well that we do. We host the national convention, literally the National Scale Model Railroading Convention. We host the national one every year, which I know you've been to. I know you're in Kansas City. And other ones, we've got the National Train Show. We have other train shows promoting scale model railroading up and down the country. And last month in October, I attended one in Cincinnati. I literally flew in. We'd taken over an entire massive high school. I mean, by my standards, it was massive. I mean, it's bigger than my village, so it was big. And we took over every single corridor, changing room, you name it, we had it. The high school football team was grilling burgers out the back. We literally took the place over. We've got, like Michelle there at the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. We support Michelle. Michelle's division meets in the museum. Other people, a lot of people don't know this, but we support, with our insurance, we support most of the RPM meets that go ahead, even though a small subset of the RPM community feels that they don't want to be part of the NMRA and don't want to acknowledge that the NMRA actually supports their community by providing insurance so they can hold their events. And I was at the Chicagoland RPM meet. We were there, the NMRA, we'd provided their insurance for that event. It could not have taken place if we didn't provide that insurance for them.
Yeah, it's a requirement. It's a requirement for the venues, isn't it, to be insured if somebody is injured or whatever the case is. And it's probably not cheap.
No, it just simply couldn't happen. But because it promotes scale model railroading, we're there to promote and support it. And it goes on and on. We do so much stuff locally that I couldn't even get into all the detail of it. But there's the local divisions are out there. If you're in an area where your local division's not very active, it's hard. But there's nothing. No one will ever stop anyone from volunteering in the NMRA. You're pushing against an open door, believe me. So if your division's is not as active as you want it to be, get involved because everyone else will sort of follow you. It's the kind of thing if somebody steps forward and gets at the front of the boat like George Washington, then everyone else will jump in the back of the boat and row you across. So actually some people are scared of leadership positions, but people will get behind somebody that has a vision, and they will help you deliver it. And if you're in one of the bigger divisions, there's just the world is your oyster. I mean, you're very fortunate if you live in like Chattanooga. You've got a great division there in Chattanooga. Just down the road in Atlanta, North Atlanta, you've got the Piedmont division, hundreds and hundreds of layouts. There's so much opportunity, and we do all sorts of stuff. And it's not just model trains, it's rail fanning as well. So one of those guys in Altoona said to me, I said, "Oh, how are you finding being a member of the NMRA?" And he said, "Well, I haven't really got a layout. I haven't got many trains yet, but I would describe myself more as a rail fan than a model railroader. So I'm writing a rail fanning guide for my local division." Great, fantastic. Pushing against an open door, and in return, they're helping him learn about model railroading, and he's helping share his knowledge about rail fanning locations around Rochester, New York. I mean, and that's what the NMRA's always been about. That was why it was started in 1935, was to bring model railroaders together to grow the hobby with a collective mind, like the Borg. I describe it as the Borg, like the NMRA is coming to get you, right? And it really is, because we should all be part of the NMRA as far as I'm concerned, because it is that place. If I could if I could double the membership, I could halve the dues. If I could halve the dues of the NMRA, so it was like $35, we would have every model railroader in the world in it, right? And definitely. And it's kind of, that's what the organization is. That's what it's all about. We support Fremo community, the Fremo N-Rail, which is N-Track, T-Track, and Fremo N. They're a special interest group of the NMRA. We support them as well. Hugely support them. In fact, some of my leadership team supports their leadership team and attends their leadership meetings to help them and be advisors and sounding boards to them if they've got anything that they need to navigate through. We've got the same with the O-Scale Central guys. They're a special interest group of the NMRA. OPSIG, LDSIG. There's so many niche interests, but the NMRA is sitting there to support everybody, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
We are not a tribal group in any way.
Well, I use the NMRA standards gauge on almost every product review I do, so I know that exists. The mentality sometimes is, what have you done for me lately? And it's not the right mentality to adopt, but there's so much that you have done lately. All the things you just mentioned behind the scenes, and the fact that it's not just wheel sets and couplers, that it's DCC functions, all the stuff that your staff does that I probably don't even know how to do yet. But and then all the things you mentioned. So it's good that that's happening, because yes, very, very much a cornerstone of the hobby by producing those major standards we use. But it's good that you're still working behind the scenes to do all those things. And I had no idea about the insurance. That's huge. So I hope those guys are more receptive to what you're doing, because you're literally providing them something, and it's almost like I wouldn't want it to be like a bite the hand that feeds you type of thing.
And they don't. And the leadership in the RPM world doesn't. They know. They get it. They get it. It's us. It's the NMRA. We're not very good at shouting about it.
Yeah.
We're far too humble about some of the things that we do. That's why we brought Lucy on board, who should hopefully join us at some point. And that's why we brought Lucy on board, to be an engagement officer and to drive our social media engagement and over engagement with people to tell our story, because we do so much that doesn't even get noticed. You want all those new lights on those new. You're getting some scale trains locos, right? They're on the way. I've got an order. I'm waiting. My wallet is crying already. It's waiting for the SD40 in N scale to land, right? Both of those models have got some fantastic new electrical features, and it's down to the people on the DCC working group working to drive those features into the standards and expand the standard to allow for additional features in DCC and to keep that DCC standard open that's allowing those lighting features to be on those models. So if you say, what's the NMRA done for me? That's what the NMRA is doing for you. We're just not telling you that we're doing it because we
Yeah.
don't feel that we need to. You know, we never needed to in the past, and I think we do need to now. I don't think we tell our story very well, and we do allow some noise to come in from people who don't know the story.
Well,
You know,
that's where that question came from, was discussions with different modelers I have. When on my Facebook page, I've got like 20,000 people on one of them and 5,000 on the other, that, there's comments and stuff, and I'm sorting through, and, people are like, what have you done for me lately, NMRA? And so it was a good question to ask because it has an answer, and a very effective answer. So, I'm not one to just take things at surface level and be like, okay, next. But if you have a justified position on things that make sense, I'm left without any retort, So it's not like I could say that you didn't answer the question. It's very listed out many things of what the NMRA does, and it is important to get it out. Maybe I'll try to help spread the word more often if you guys won't brag on yourselves, because it's definitely important, and I hope that that does get out there, because it's just so important to drive membership and work on that overall. Everybody has different opinions of everything, and sometimes it takes a long time to change that opinion. I'm still being held to task for things I've said in reviews in 2012. So
that's
it's
why
gonna
I don't
be,
do reviews. That's
yeah.
why I don't do reviews. Don't do reviews.
So it's going to be a long game, but I'm glad that you're doing it and that you're staying motivated to do it, because it can drag you down too. It's like you mentioned, this isn't the only thing you do, and it's not some posh CEO job like you would think of a guy sitting on a hill in a mansion smoking a cigar and drinking cognac. You're active, busy, have other things going on in life, and have taken on this responsibility because you have to put yourself up for a vote. So it's not like somebody forced you to be president, but it comes with a lot of responsibility, especially if you want to get this ship turned around. And it sounds like you're doing it. So, and your team too. I'm bad about saying team.
Yeah.
But your
Don't
team,
worry, I'll remind you. I'll remind you.
Yeah, your team is very helpful too. And I'll have to get up there to Saudi. It's just a really long drive. It's like 25 minutes. And I don't know if I can make it. No, I got to get up there and see the folks up there, because it's really close. It's like in my backyard, and I should have been there by now. So let's talk about youth for a second specifically. And when I say youth, I mean like maybe 5 to 12 or 13, not even 18-year-olds or whatever. There was an approach in the past, again prior to you, that was a bad thing to go down because of all the different potential pitfalls and issues. But what are your approaches to that youth thing? And I'm talking about like before you, so don't take it personal. It's just I had heard some utterings out of the NMRA years and years ago that we got to stay away from the young kids because there's all these liabilities and things that we got to watch out for.
No, we have to protect people. We have to make sure that people are safe. And there are people, it's unfortunate, but there are people in our hobby with convictions that tell me that there are people in our hobby that are not safe to be around children on their own. So
it's definitely something that has to be considered, but it seemed like they just pushed out the entire group because of that at the time.
The principle was sound, the execution was poor. Right. Yeah. So and we've all been there. We all know that no plan survives first contact with the enemy, but it helps if there is a plan in it. It helps if there was a plan in the first place of how to roll that out. So I think I split it a little bit different. So I want to talk about under 18s and 18 to 40s because I think those are both younger people in the hobby, right?
Yeah, I'm still in there.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So under 18s, look, we are not anti young people in the hobby, and as in under 18s in the hobby, but there are not. The United States is not the Netherlands. You don't allow people to go and work when they're 13, right? When in the Netherlands, after school and on the weekends and in the school holidays, 13 to 18-year-olds are encouraged to go and get a job and earn money for themselves,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't happen in our world, right? And so we need to focus on family because that's where the money is. Ultimately, to support the hobby, right? Whatever hobbies and interests your young boys are in, if you didn't provide the transport and the money to do it, they couldn't do it, or it'd be very difficult for them to do it. And it's the same with model railroads. So the NMRA has got a focus on family, and we already have, not everywhere, but we do have family focused programs such as our pizza box program that our Northern Utah division do. And we're talking not something small, we're talking hundreds of people. There's a waiting list to do that, and they've had 300 families through it. And they've got a massive waiting list. And we want to roll programs like that, not exactly the same, no carbon copying, but programs like that out in all of the divisions that can support it. And so we want to make sure we have family focused programs. That program's been checked, it's compliant with our at-risk policy. Parents stay with the children and participate in the hobby together because when they're at home, they're going to be doing it together. And we need to make sure if we're teaching somebody that the parent isn't going to glue their finger to their eyelid, right? Really important because the kid can't drive the mum to A&E or ER in the ER in your case, right? And so the NMRA will next year be producing materials to help families get more enjoyment from the hobby. Whether that's tear off sheets that people can take off our booths as additional marketing collateral, we will be doing things like that because we need to get families involved in the hobby. And it's not to get them involved in the NMRA per se, it will happen, but it's to make them aware that the organization exists. And just like myself, when they're older and they're independent and they want to make their own choices, we want them to make a choice to become an NMRA member and be active and take part. A number of parents from the Pizza Box program have become involved in the administration of that division, have become involved separately as model railroaders, as adults attending events with or without their children. And that's fantastic because it's a hobby for all ages. So many of our divisions across the NMRA are already doing that. We want more to do it. We're there to support more people doing it. We've just revised the persons at risk policy to make this a lot easier for people to do it. But we won't be returning to providing merit badge programs where there's no parents there because there's very little value in us doing that as an organization. It's not, it is sharing scale model railroading for the briefest moment. It's not sharing it in a way that's sticky, that's going to sustain. And so it's not valuable to us as an organization to do that, although hundreds of people have been introduced to our organization by doing that. But in this day and age, it's just not safe for us to do that. So we've got to provide under 18 programs. We all know that. We will be doing more of it, but we're doing it in a safe way to protect young people. It's ultimately it. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions on the under 18 bit?
No, that makes sense. And it's easy for people like me to armchair quarterback a very simple statement with a very complex issue. So I want you to think that, it was just something that I was critiquing. It's more about, what the plans were because of, again, some of the things that have come up in the past. And I try to pivot to the future, but it's good to kind of, see what's going on based on past experiences.
If we'd spent 15 minutes explaining that way, rather than the way it was, we would have had a better reaction. So this is about us accepting as an organization we need to change. One of the things we need to do is change the way we talk.
Yeah.
And because we're not changing the message, we're not changing the outcome, we're just changing the way we talk about it. To make sure that we're explaining it in a way that when I explain a triangle, you see a triangle.
Yeah.
Because it's not safe if I explain a square and you see a triangle.
Yeah.
That's not safe at all,
Some things, in the past, or with certain members or certain folks, including, I can see the older version of me doing this. They just kind of grumble and don't explain anything. So it's good to have an explanation of how things are working behind the scenes on that. Did you want to talk about the other age
I
groups?
do. So I do. Yeah. So the people that are working. So people that are at college, people that have left college, people that are starting families, people that have young families like ourselves, and before we getting into planning for retirement, or we should be planning for retirement at 18. But that's a whole different topic of conversation that I'm sure we could talk about on another time. But we've got to look at how do we encourage activities in the NMRA that would appeal to younger people. So younger adults do not attend. They attend Comic Con because it's fun and the social aspect. They don't attend NMRA conventions because they think it's a load of older people sitting in stuffy rooms, and that go to bed at 7 o'clock. Right? That's not the case because most model railroaders go to bed at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, having either propped the bar up or stayed in clinics till 10 o'clock from 8 o'clock in the morning. But it's the perception, right?
Yeah.
If they knew it was like, let's go to Altoona and go and watch trains and Gordy's bringing 7 crates of beer, then maybe, right? But it's not necessarily the way that people see it. We have also got to address the elitist attitudes that creep in. People spend years and years and years becoming an MMR, and they feel that they earns them some people, not all, earns them some kind of badge of respect. The best MMRs that are out there are the people that don't necessarily mention they're an MMR. Now, I know I've got Gordy MMR, but that's because that's how I sign things off, right? But I don't tell you what my number is. My shirt doesn't have my number on. It doesn't have anything about that. I've just got to have that on because I need to promote the program. I am an MMR. I'm proud of what I achieved, but it doesn't define who I am as a person. It's an achievement. I've achieved it. I don't walk around and go Gordy Robinson, MSc, PG Cert, blah blah blah, all my professional qualifications either in real life. I do on LinkedIn and I do where it's appropriate. But we've got to address that. The best MMRs are the people that know what an MMR means. It means that you've achieved a certain level and it's your responsibility to get as many other people as possible to that same level. Kind of like being a senior NCO in the military, right?
Oh.
You get that, you work years and years for that, you get to that level, it's your responsibility to make sure everybody else that walks through the door on their first day of basic training has the same opportunity to get to the level that you are. And that's the same as what an MMR does. And people actually sign a piece of paper to say that's exactly what they will do. So we've got to do that. We also need to address the lack of focus within our organization in the past on niche hobby interests, because younger people are more likely to have a niche interest. They're more likely to only be interested in that 5 miles of track nearest their house because they can only afford to be interested in a niche interest. They might only have 2 or 3 locomotives. They might only have a dozen freight cars, but those dozen freight cars, they will detail them to be exactly like the prototype they see when they're out rail fanning. We need to recognize that and encourage that and find a way to merge that into what we do, where we've got these layouts that are huge. So you'll notice we've already started to change a few things with what we print in the magazine to recognize a broader spectrum of what people do in the hobby. And we've got relationships with railroad model craftsmen, we've got relationships with model railroader, and you'll see more of that coming out because we know that's where people are and we know that we support them. So we just need to support them in a better way. And scales beyond HO. I know you're a HO guy. I'm not going to say that the NMRA is not HO. I've got HO. My layout currently, the current modules that are set up in my train room, because my train room is not a fixed layout, it's multifunctional. Modules come in, modules come out. My idea is we'll have a winter and summer layout opposing seasons, so it can be winter layout in summer and a summer layout in winter, just to cheer me up a bit when I go in there. But it's not blazing hot and it's not freezing cold, although it's freezing cold every day in Orkney. But I've got HO. But we as an organization are recognized as the HO organization because there isn't a HO specialist organization. There is for N, there is for O, S, Z even, right? But there isn't for HO. So we kind of just naturally became that. But not everybody that's younger is into HO. The fastest growing scale is N, despite what Rapido may recently have published about some of their product choices that have led them to not have a brilliant relationship with N scale at the moment in the UK or in the US and Canada. They will address that, I'm sure, but N scale community is growing, and a lot people can fit a lot more in N scale. You know, certainly if you're deploying with the military, if you're a young person that deploys with the military, N scale is much easier to sneak away than HO is. It takes up a lot less room. Same if you're in a dorm room or whatever. So we as an organization need to do that. We're also looking at ways that we can encourage and develop those members that we do have that are under 40 into being more active in the organization, whether that's into leadership roles or just into any role that helps them contribute on a local or national level. We're not good at doing that. We've got to cut out the circular leadership. And what I mean by circular leadership, I mean there's 4 people in a room, and every year they rotate through the officer roles in their division. There's far too much of that been going on over the last 25 years. That's got to stop. It's got to stop. It's got to stop now, because there's no new ideas coming into that. You guys are doing a great job of doing what you've always done, but it's not bringing in the new ideas. It's not developing new people. It's not sustainable. You know, obviously I give you the Altoona example. I'm not going to give it again, but there you go. There's an example of how the organization's already changing. That's what younger people are doing. We could have posted at that convention and said, hey, we're going rail fanning. Let's all just jump in cars and go rail fanning. Jump in your own car, no carpooling, whatever, right? Legal nonsense we needed to do. But we could have gone off and done that and promoted that as an activity as part of the convention rather than just sitting in clinic rooms. And we would have probably changed that perception of it being a bit of a stuffy thing. But ultimately, it's the same as the self-reflective bit. We've got to reflect and understand that the traditional activities that the NMRA has done, we need to continue to do for the people that are NMRA members because they enjoy them. But we've also got to recognise that they might not appeal to younger model railroaders. So how do we change our language, change our vocabulary, change the way that we do things without not doing them? Just change it a bit to appeal to younger people. And we're working really hard to do that. I haven't got a great answer for that. If people have got great answers, maybe they want to post them in the comments. Love to hear it, because we're open to trying anything. You know, we'll try it, we'll plan to do it, we'll do it, we'll change. You know, it's plan, do, act, change, whatever. The circles of iteration, and we'll continue to iterate and build on top of things, so that we can change and tweak them. It's the same with that. I said it once, I'll say it again. Judging and assessing should be evaluating, and that's a language that people are more familiar with. You know, let's run the tapes after the football game. Why are we running the tapes? Because we're evaluating our performance. We're not judging our performance. We're evaluating it. And that's what all we do. That doesn't change anything that we do. It changes one word, and one word makes a huge difference to the conversation. So it's learning and recognizing where those pitfalls are. And they're not always right in front of your face. Even I struggle to see them sometimes, you know, but I always listen to the feedback that people give me, and that's usually gives me an extra set of eyes and ears. So
yeah, it sounds like you've got it well thought out, and your team has it well thought out to involve more people, get new ideas into the process. That's all key, because, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with the term groupthink and how things, if you get just a stagnant group of folks in there that becomes a real clique or something like that, where you can't get new ideas or new people in, that becomes a real big problem. And speaking of, you know, ideas and people and communicating your message, obviously we're on a social media platform right now, but what other kind of social media specific, since we're on a social media platform, what kind of social media specific ideas do you have to get your word out? Is it just kind of Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter? And
well, I was hoping my superstar Lucy was gonna make it, but she's got a young family too, and I'm sure that they've got in the way. So we brought Lucy on board at the beginning of September. She's had a huge impact. I mean, huge. Like, before Lucy was involved, 1% of our people engaging with us were under 35. Now it's 10. That's just huge.
That's fast. She hasn't been with you long.
That's the seismic shift.
Yeah.
And so we've put ourselves out onto TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I can't be because I can be now, I suppose, but I couldn't be because I was working for the government in the healthcare system in the UK up until the beginning of October. So I couldn't be anywhere near TikTok. That's fine. But we're on TikTok. We need to be there. We need to be there because that's where young people are. We're not don't worry, we're not sharing anything that the Chinese government doesn't already know about the NMRA, because they use all our standards to build your models. So don't worry about that, right? They're very aware of us, and we're very aware of them. And when they phone us up, we listen to what they have to say, because they make our trains. So yeah, we're there. We're also just making sure that we've got posts. You know, one of the biggest things the NMRA needs to do on social media is give people an awareness that we exist. And we do that by showing up in people's media feeds. We pushed out, you know, the National Train Show this year. There was 11,000 people attended it. 1,000 of them were model railroaders, and 10,000 of them were families. Just think that in for just a second.
Right.
Just let that sink in. 10,000 families turned up to the National Train Show.
Yeah.
The biggest number of families we have ever seen at the National Train Show. The interest in our hobby is huge. Where did they all find out about the National Train Show? Because they ain't NMRA members. Through social media.
Right.
And because we did all that social media promotion. So we've added thousands of people to be just following our page, just seeing our daily updates. We're exposing more modelers around the world. We just did a focus about a model railroader in Sweden who does modeling on planes, trains, everywhere she goes. She's female, she's young, and she's a model railroader. Who'd have thought it? These people were there. We've not invented them. These are not AI generated imaginary people, right? These people exist. We want to tell their story, and we're busy, you know, in the process telling our story. And so that's really what we're doing. I mean, ultimately, unfortunately, gone are the days of manufacturers putting NMRA information in with their products. You know, Athern used to do it. You buy an old Athern Blue Box kit, you'll find the slip. Almost every other month, somebody sends me a picture of it and says, "Why do you not still do this?" And it's like, because Athern won't do it.
Yeah.
That's why. Why would they do that? It's not the way the world is anymore. But Soundtracks do it for us. So Soundtracks, if you do a direct order from Soundtracks, you'll get NMRA information in your pack. You know, and I'm hoping other manufacturers will do it. There's one in Tennessee just down the road from our office. I can give them tons and tons of stuff. In addition to Candid, you can get a Join the NMRA form with your GVOs. But those days really are gone. You know, gone even are the days of people sticking on standards and conformance warrants onto their products. If you look and buy an old Proto 2000 model, it'll have an NMRA conformance warrant on the back of it, on most all of them, to say it conforms to the DCC standards at least. People don't even print that on the box anymore. So we're in that battle. So our battle is that we need to be on social media to tell our own story, because no one's going to tell it for us. And we've been on social media for a long time. I became involved in the social media team in 2017 because I was tweeting about the convention, and I was putting out on Facebook about the convention through the British region's channels, because I'm a member of the British region, and that's what I did for them. And everyone said, "Why is National not doing this?" And I simply said to the National team at the time, "Why are you not doing this?" And you know what? And they I'll be honest, I think some people thought, "Who's this annoying little person from the UK who's making us all look bad?" And then I just turned around and said, "I'm not trying to make you look bad. Just give me the keys. Give me the keys to the car, and I'll drive it for you." And so they gave me the keys to the NMRA's national social media, and the rest is history. And I started helping Christina and Ken and the team doing the NMRA social media.
And a lot of
we
people
got volunteers as well, so we got to do it. If you've not seen what the NMRA's done on social media in the last 2 months, or even over the last few years, I don't know where you've been. You look at our YouTube channel. There's hundreds of hours of content from NMRAX on YouTube now. We're on Twitter, or now X. X, formerly known as Twitter. We're on Facebook, and you know, we're on TikTok. We're on the gram. We're on Instagram. See how cool I am there? We're on Instagram. We're not on Snapchat yet, but I kind of don't see the point. You know, I don't want to put Bugs Bunny ears on the big boy or anything like that on Snapchat. But we're everywhere else. We're doing everything that we can to get out there, and we're also on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn and you're a young professional and you want to show that you're a volunteer with the NMRA, you can tag that as part of your volunteering, and you can interact with the NMRA professionally as well, which is great. It's great to see what people do outside of their NMRA lives and how many really talented people we've got in the organization. So, you know, we're everywhere we need to be.
Outside of the box thinking, the LinkedIn thing, because that wouldn't have even crossed my mind. So that's
yeah.
it's all good stuff. I'm obviously biased towards social media. I've seen the manufacturers start to come around to social media. Some are ahead of others. In the Athearn situation, I'm sorry to hear that. I think it's definitely not the employees. It's just so darn structured over there with that Horizon hobby over it that I don't know if they can get anything done.
Athens just not. It's not just Athens. It's anyone.
Yeah,
No one would want to do that. That's an extra step in their process. It's extra
yeah,
cost. It's not easy.
yeah. Maybe they can do stickers like I see some of the other YouTubers and stuff do or something, but hopefully they can get the word out to help, or maybe just share it on their social media. Speaking of social media, if you don't mind,
Don't worry.
huh?
5,000 NMRA stickers just arrived yesterday for Amherst. So if you're at Amherst, you can pick up your NMRA sticker. So we'll have some going around as well.
I'm still deciding whether I'll get to Amherst. It's been a lot harder post military to get places. My kids need a lot of support, and my wife gets really bogged down when I leave. So I've been limiting my trips severely. But I'm hoping to get to Amherst or one of the bigger shows this year. And I'd love to go to San Diego area for in the National Train Show next year in Southern California area.
Long Beach, yeah.
Long Beach. So, because I love that area. I just go up to San Diego and just live there. But I'm going to go through, if you don't mind, some of the questions that have popped up. And if you guys watching have any of the questions for myself or Gordy, I'll be happy to answer it. I'll try to keep it related to the NMRA, but I can try to cover some other stuff briefly. Let's see. So somebody says I use the same stream size as they do. Yeah, that's just a regular guy. Somebody did ask about the low viewership. So I've gotten on the wrong side of YouTube's algorithm somehow. I might have angered somebody. I don't know. But the videos are all over the place. Usually when I do live streams, they're not really the more viewed videos. But I've got, just in the past year, I've got videos with hundreds of thousands of views or like 1,500. So it's all over the place. It's hard for somebody to take the time to sit down and listen to a full live stream. Some people catch it later, but we've only got like 20 some people live. So sometimes I just get on the wrong side of the algorithm too. But it'll be good because it'll be there if you guys don't have time to stay for the whole thing on the live tab, which it kind of hides on my channel under a different tab too, which makes it hard. But you'll be able to view that content. What can the NMRA do to bring young people to the hobby and keep this from being a rich, old, retired farts hobby?
There's still plenty of people play with Tyco and the same free rail set they had since they were tiny, even if they're in their 80s.
So we covered that a little bit. He talked about, gearing things towards the younger generation. So you guys might have to go back a little bit. Gordy, if you want to summarize it in a minute or two, you can. If not, we can move on.
We got to change.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's pretty much the case. Somebody did bring up a good fact about ages. The manufacturers' boxes do say age 14 plus because there's, pieces that a kid can choke on or eat. So the young children.
All model. I've learned, if I've learned one thing modeling North American prototypes, it's that all model trains are cancerous in California. So there's warnings everywhere, right? They've got to be on there for legal reasons. Supervised. It's like anything. Anything's safe if you supervise it properly.
Yeah. Another member, I don't remember where the comment is, was asking about whether you guys can basically affect pricing, and I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure you could ask, but
I wish.
yeah,
we can't, but we can and we can't. So how do we affect? We do affect pricing because by doing the standard stuff, we make sure that models are conformant, so that you're not spending loads of money. In addition, imagine spending $400 on a locomotive and then it not working with the track that you've got, so you've got to change to Pico's wheels, right, or Microengineering's wheels or whatever. Can you imagine? So we already do bring the price down. But we can't price fix, and I'm not even going there. I'm not even getting into that. But you know, we definitely, I think, already do help you in your pocket. It's just like I said earlier, you just don't realize that we're doing it.
And yeah, the standards thing is huge because I recently ran across a certain rolling stock from a certain manufacturer that I realized I needed to put in KD washers on every single wheel.
Well,
And we're talking over 120 pieces of rolling stock for this unit train. I needed to put KD washers on every single wheel set just to stop the wheels from rubbing on the body and getting the coupler height right to match with the locomotive. So
how does that even pass QC? How does that? I'm sorry, my father was a manufacturer, right?
yeah,
I grew up in this. How does that even pass quality control?
I don't know.
If one of our guys made a prototype like that, I know my dad's quite a physical person. That would probably, and we did brass O scale stuff, that would probably have rebounded off the back of someone's head like a Gibbs slap from
Yeah,
across the room. Like, there's no way that should happen. So we really work hard to maintain relationships with manufacturers, but we are about to change something that we've done. So as an organization, we've not been printing for about 30 years any review of a model that doesn't meet our standards. That's going to change.
yeah.
We're about to make that change. We're about to start issuing reviews because we've got a stack of reviews where models have failed. We've written to the manufacturer. We tried to work with them to make it right. We've explained to them where it's wrong, what they could do to make it better, what they could do to make it right. And they've either said they're going to do something and never done it, or they've just stopped talking to us or whatever. No, we're going to start printing them because people are coming to us rightly and saying, "You're the standards organization. Why are you not telling me that model doesn't meet your standards?" So we
Right.
are going to do that. That is going to start happening real soon.
Yeah, and the folks that watch my reviews know that I usually mention in the beginning of the review whether a coupler height's low. I talk about all the different NMRA standards for rolling stock. You have weight standards based on length. Um, and it's rare that I see an entire run bad. So, I don't want to bash on them too hard, but this run was a mess. And then, but there are usually a lot of locomotives. Probably 80% of my reviews have one or the other couple are a little low or whatever. But it's good that you guys do that, and people shouldn't come back on you for those things being off because, as the saying, maybe the same saying across the pond, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So you can put those standards out, but the factories, the folks that are making those decisions don't necessarily have to adhere to them, but holding them to account by not reviewing the products is going to definitely help you in that. Probably get that moving along better. So this,
I suppose I should say it as well. We buy models as well as receive donations from manufacturers. So unlike other places, like the magazines, don't do that.
right,
They only review what's given to them. We actually buy product. So if somebody says to us, this product is rubbish, we'll buy it and we'll analyze it. We did that last year. We bought a number of products last year. We had a lot of conversations in 2022 with certain manufacturers around DCC equipment that didn't quite meet spec or was having issues and concerns. And a lot of that, I think, was genuinely down to the poor components that were available last year. I mean, there was a chip shortages and other, microelectronic components. It wasn't the manufacturer's fault per se. But we worked with them to work around it to make people aware, and we did an NMRA dispatch to all of our NMRA members to make them aware of some of the concerns and problems and what we'd identified and ways around it. Because if the product had been available to the manufacturers to change the components, they would have done it, but it just wasn't available. So we had to provide some interim advice with our manufacturing partners. So we will buy a model. So if you think that something's rubbish, then contact the standards and conformance team, and they'll either ask for a sample or they'll buy one, and they'll review it, and we'll see what we can do.
yeah, I
We'll
try to.
see how we can help.
I stay pretty objective in my reviews by interjecting things like the NMRA standards, so that there's, and I'm doing it live on camera so that there's no misunderstanding whether they're meeting standards or not, and spend a lot of personal money on reviews. So it's good that you're doing that as well. And speaking of, the magazine and reviews on products, when you sign up for a membership for the NMRA, do you get automatically enrolled in the magazine subscription, or is it just an add-on? Or
So no, you automatically get a digital subscription.
okay.
So you don't get a paper subscription unless you add that on. Two reasons for that: not everybody wants it, and two, being environmentally responsible. We don't automatically do that. We've not done that for a number of years. But now we said I recognised and the board recognised that it's important that we have this communication tool for our members. So it wasn't popular with everybody, but on the whole, a lot of people bought into it, and nearly 50% of our subscribers have gone digital now. We have moved them onto the digital platform. So once you join, you'll give it 3 business days. That's Monday to Friday days, not Saturday and Sunday. And remember, it's Thanksgiving next week. If you want to give the gift of an NMRA membership for Thanksgiving, just remember that we're off as well. And the guys will process your membership. You'll be added on, and then once you receive your information, or about a week after you've joined, you can go in. Once you got your login to the website, in fact, that's all you need. You can go in and follow the steps on the website. You can get into the NMRA Interchange, which is our Discord platform, where you can talk to members all over the world. And you can also get into the digital magazine, which you can get on your phone. And if you are an Android user, the digital magazine's got full accessibility features in it, and it'll even read the articles to you. So if you're struggling to read on a screen, or you just struggle to read, you're struggling to see, you can have it read it to you. So my daughter uses that. She uses that text reading service to read the NMRA magazine because she's only 4. So reading that is difficult. And I don't want her, no offense, but I don't want her reading American English when she's learning real English. So she's, so she listens to it on my phone.
Yeah, I felt like I was going to have to explain some of your words. Like, you know what rubbish is, guys, right?
Yeah, trash, gosh, yeah, trash, garbage.
I am RRO. He's a good YouTuber, and we've known each other for a long time. He was mentioning something about Atlas had installed a E24 plug for ESU low sound decoders with no other decoder option available other than that connector. So do you guys have do you just encourage model train companies to diversify? So
it's a difficult one, because that move to a 24-pin plug, at least it's here, that move to a 24-pin plug is driven by the demand for more lighting features. And so it is a European standard. I can't make the DCC chip manufacturers make product with a 24-pin plug on it. I can tell you that there's not just ESU. You should be able to get 24-pin product from other European chip manufacturers. Try a company called Zimo, Zimo. Let's talk American for a minute. And they are out of Austria, and they produce chips as well. They're a competitor to ESU in the European market. Very popular in the UK and Europe. Very, very high quality chips. They don't let the Blue Genie out very easily. That's one good thing I'll say about Zimo decoders. So yeah, but it's a challenge, because there's the standards and there's innovation. And at the moment, I feel like we're in a huge period of innovation in the hobby, as people want more lighting features, more sound, more this, more that. We're going to get to a point where there's going to be motors on every flipping axle, and there's, like I say, you're going to be able to turn on individual lights in the dash in the cab. Well, it's where it's going. You can buy steam locomotives from European manufacturers that eject steam out of the cylinder drain cocks, for crying out loud. So if you can do that, then we're going to end up with more and more features. The more features that we add, we're having a chip that's separate, plugging into a motherboard, and the chip's the brain, and the brain's got to communicate. So we are looking at, the DCC working group looking at different ways that the chip can communicate with motherboards, but that's a huge change to the standard, and that would be quite complicated, but it would alleviate the current need for massive multi-pin decoders. But the E24s are going to open up a whole world of opportunity for N-Scale. But I
Yeah,
feel like in N-Scale we've gone 6, 18, now we're 24. It's going to come a point we can't get any more.
Yeah, I encourage the modelers too to kind of take up their issues with the manufacturers, and then if they're not getting support and they're an NMRA member, they can contact you for backup. And you guys may notice we have a new guest that popped in. I might have added her too early. I apologize if I added her before she was ready, but she might have either I've gotten the time wrong in her email or something occurred. So we're sorry.
No, I'm totally going to blame myself on that one because for some reason, I guess when I changed my settings for my computer, like it didn't transfer the calendar event over. And I just can't get time zones correct, apparently, is my thing.
Don't worry. In Australia, you're not late.
Oh, I feel so bad. I called
5 o'clock
Christina.
somewhere.
Well, my husband's in Miami, so I actually had gone to go get my kids. And so I'm like, oh, I've got all this time before I even had gotten my hair done before I went to pick them up. And so I was just taking my precious time. And then I look at my phone and I'm like, oh no. So yeah. I'm so sorry. Hi, guys.
Oh, no problem. Welcome to the show. And thanks for coming in. I guess we're at a good pause point. We've covered pretty much everything, but we can take some time. We didn't cover your introduction because one of my questions was, what is your title and position at the NMRA? And Gordy's already spoken to some of the great changes that you've made. He talked about the engagement on social media going to like 10 times what it was, or 10%. Sorry, Gordy, my attention span's it's that long financial day. But he talked about some of the great engagement you've changed with your social media help online. So do you want to go into kind of your role and what you bring to the table?
Sure. Yeah. I've had so much fun in this last little bit, just kind of learning the hobby and the industry in general. But, I founded a nonprofit in Meridian. So I kind of got into the hobby side of the industry then back in 2020, and I just fell in love with it. I came for the trains, but I stayed for the people. So I think the best part about social media is being able to share the stories that typically don't get a chance to be heard. So like I shared a story of a girl from Sweden, and it was just amazing to be able to share someone that just doesn't usually look like what your typical modeler would be. And they're out there. And so just gives us a chance to really branch out and reach other areas.
Yeah, that's good. It's important, like I talked to Gordy before about, just like people have reputations, organizations have reputations, and it's good to focus on the positive stuff because anybody can pick anybody apart. People, I've got 1,000 videos online. People can pick me apart until I'm in a corner crying. But it's very important to focus on what people bring to the table, what an organization brings to the table. So hearing those stories, I think is going to be great for the NMRA because it's important to hear things like that normally wouldn't be good be out. Gordy mentioned that you guys don't brag on yourselves as much. And I'm glad you're here to help that occur because sometimes you need to convey a message about what impact you're having on the hobby.
And I love Gordy's analogies because they're the best. And I don't know if he's already used them or not, but change doesn't happen overnight. Change takes time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of patience and a lot of positivity. And I think that is the biggest thing with the NMRA is that, if people in the hobby, not even in just the NMRA, in the hobby in general, if we all want to see these positive changes together, we've all got to support it and speak positively and pour every positive ounce of energy we have into it. Because together we can be a lot more successful than just a few of us really trying. So, I think that the hobby is really starting to come together and get grasped to go back to the empire it is and should be.
Yeah, 2020, I've heard a lot of reported growth in the hobby from COVID, people kind of being driven into their basements. And I think it was really good for the hobby in terms of growth and turned something negative into something positive in the hobby. So I'm glad you're here and a good tool for the NMRA to use is social media. and you'll be able to tap right into that. And you've had, previous to your time with the NMRA, like museum experience and stuff with trains. So it's not like you just popped into trains, right?
Yeah, so it's funny. I actually got news today about the old project that I was working on. And once you have that passion project, you can just never let it go. So even though we've moved from Meridian, it's still got a special place in my heart. But I founded Meridian Rail's Historical Society back in 2020. And the main reason that I founded that was because the museum had wrongfully been taken from the museum that was in there. So the city had the rights to the building, but the building was donated for railroad museum purposes only. But the city had decided that they wanted to use it for different purposes. And so they kicked the model railroaders out. They had a beautiful layout in there that they had worked countless hours on, spent tons of their own money on, and they had no agreement with the city. So they were forced to tear that whole layout down and take that somewhere else. And when I heard that story, I said, I never want that to happen to another person again. And so for me, I'm really glad to be involved with the NMRA because I've seen how things can go south. And I know that it's good to have good agreements in places with clubs and things like that. And I just love being able to be a place, the mothership, as Gordy would call it, for all modelers, to just be a good resource for them.
Well, that's good to hear. And man, the museum scene can be a challenge. So I'm sure you've had your challenges. And I was in California when somebody was getting kicked out, and that's not fun. I tried to help with a video and fundraise, and I never really followed up with how that story ended. But it's just a lot of work, and when you've got a whole contingent of nothing but volunteers,
yes,
it makes it extremely difficult. So hopefully those type of stories stop where people are getting kicked out of their area.
Well, and then all the success that we had, I really attribute it to social media because they had a great museum in there before, but nobody really knew about it. Nobody was telling the story of what was going on inside of that building. So the city didn't see the purpose for it anymore.
Right.
And, I didn't know much about trains or know much about Meridian, Mississippi in general, but our whole thing was we were going to keep their stories alive. And we utilized social media to tell that story about what we were trying to do. And I think that this is a great time with the National Model Railroad Association to tell the story about how things are changing in our hobby and our industry and how we are here to support that change. Regardless of your modeler status or who you are, or, what you prefer, we love everybody. We want to support you. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
I'm just gonna get a shirt that says MMR on it and see if Gordy gets mad at me.
Great. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. I'd love to see you get your certificates done. Let's get it done.
No, we talked about MMR, and it's not as difficult as everybody thinks it is. So people need to go look at the requirements and consider that program.
99.9% of that program is getting off this and getting with this. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, switch gears kind of back to questions because that's where we were at when you joined, if you don't mind, Lucy.
No, fine. Go ahead. So sorry.
A couple other things that trickled in that I wanted to address. I could probably cover a quick version and you guys could go into more detail, but people were talking about eBay prices, which I can just say you're not going to be able to have any influence over. I've seen it's usually when I'm bidding on something that things go crazy, like 30% over what it would normally go for, but eBay prices are all over the map. So the NMRA is not going to be able to have any standardized for that. And they can maybe, the fixed prices are one thing, but the auctions are out of hand. They can go crazy. But another person was asking kind of a subset to that question is, are you guys able to suggest prices for steam and diesel locomotives? But my guess is that there's just so many variations and features and stuff. There's no real way to get a grasp on that, right?
I mean, I think that there's just a whole different area with that. I'm sorry. I thought you were directing that to Gordy. I was trying to listen and reading.
He's like, I'm not touching that one. I'm not telling
I
you.
don't want to touch that one
I already said we're not price fixing.
Right.
I already answered this question.
Oh yeah,
See, I came in at the wrong time because I have no idea what Gordy's already been like. Nope.
Yeah, he mentioned that. I think I was trying to adjust the eBay portion, which is just completely, there's no way to control that. But to further elaborate on the price thing, I think there's just, Gordy put his stance out, but say he wanted to, where are you going to start? One manufacturer's steam locomotive has so many different features than another manufacturer's steam locomotive. So they're supposed to take every model that's ever produced and say this is what the price should be. It's kind of like chasing your tail or herding cats. I don't think it's going to be something that's doable, even if they wanted to. Let's see. And that was just them saying that you should suggest pricing. I was trying to see if there's anything else we didn't cover. Somebody had mentioned that E24 again and the price involved with that. And again, same thing, can't really address pricing.
No, and it's difficult because currently only ESU are doing an E24 decoder, but I know I don't want to say who's working on it, but I know others will. It's just that ESU are right there producing new stuff because they are also producing the majority of the motherboards that are going into these locomotives. So they kind of got the leg up a little bit. But that E24 is a standard of the European groups and will become an NMRA standard probably in January when we get to vote on it. So.
That's good. Yeah, and the fact that you mentioned earlier that you guys are behind the scenes working on all those things, and that's kind of one of the many things that the NMRA does is interesting because I also, I think some of the manufacturers have been so tired of me getting on them about different things that they will consult with me to try to tweak things, even though I don't have nearly the knowledge your staff or some of your members have. I can see the obvious things and try to help with those things that are in development. So that behind the scenes picture is a huge benefit to the hobby. So I'm glad you guys participate and help manufacturers in that way. That was news to me today, along with the insurance and so many other things that I hope people will go back and watch this video in its entirety. Even if they speed up my boring monotone voice to like 1.5 speed down there on the gear icon, you can get through a lot of information that you really need to hear. And so, Lucy, I know you joined us, and I hope I'm not being rude. Is there anything?
No, I'm the rude
one. Wrap up.
No, I feel so bad.
No, it's fine. I just want to see if there's anything that you want to add before we wrap up.
There's so many things that I am still learning about the hobby, and I'm really glad to have kind of that beginner's perspective, because I think a lot of times people are scared to get into the hobby just because they don't know much about it and they feel kind of intimidated. So I think that it's just really cool that we get a chance to tell the stories of people that have been doing this for years and years, and then showcase people that are like the beginners and encourage them to try to kind of join in the hobby and really just join the family of modeling. So I am always open to questions and suggestions, so people are always welcome to reach out to me at engage@nmra.org.
Okay, appreciate that. Gordy, do you have any final kind of thoughts or any recap you want to go over?
No, I think we covered quite a lot, and I appreciate you giving us the time to answer the questions and not not scream and shout at us while we're trying to answer the questions. It is appreciated. So. It's great, and look, I'm looking forward to following your journey. I want you to, commit to me that you'll let me know if anything, is there any bumps that you encounter, and I will level that road for you ahead of you. In anyone else, it's the same. It's presidents@nmra.org. If I don't reply in 72 hours, then email me again, because I guarantee I've looked at it whilst I've been trying to change somebody's bum, or trying to chase somebody around the house, or trying to stop somebody climbing up a kitchen unit, right? Because I have a young family too, and or I've been at work, having to actually go out and earn some money to pay for the trains from various manufacturers that I buy. So it's just keep me abreast of that journey. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm glad to know that James is now working towards becoming an MMR. You heard it here tonight first, so I'm looking forward to that and getting you into doing some bits and pieces. And you know, hopefully we'll see you at a show, or we'll see you at a show, or we'll see you in Long Beach next year.
Okay, so here's the deal. It's going to be a slow journey to MMR, but what I am going to do today is join the NMRA again, because I was a member at one point. I don't know if it'll pull up in your database correctly because I moved so many times, but I'm going to re-sign up. I'm going to post, the receipt or some sort of confirmation without giving away everything about my personal information.
No, don't do that.
For people that were actually paying attention, because we've had 28 to 35 people in here at a time. Maybe that's a good thing in some aspects because it's going to increase your chances of what I'm about to say next. I'm also going to pay for one person's NMRA membership if you comment on the video after the live stream ends in the comments section, because I don't know if I can accurately respond or contact you in the live stream section. So go back, comment on the video, and by the end of the month, at midnight Eastern Standard Time, 11:30, November 30th, we'll choose a winner. So any comments, I'll make a comment saying, hey, this is the last comment. Choose a winner. I think you guys have gift certificates. Is that right, Gordy? So I don't have to.
Yeah, we can do something.
Yeah, if not, I'll just Cash App, PayPal, whatever. I'll pay for somebody's membership in addition to my own membership. So we'll both be new members together for somebody that comments on the video. And what I want you to comment is just, entering giveaway or something, or what's your favorite thing about the NMRA? This is a giveaway comment, but anybody that comments is going to be entered. But I would like to focus on positivity because we've transitioned from the past. We're looking towards the future. So I would really like you guys to tell me what your favorite thing about the NMRA is, because there's bad comments that we see occasionally, and we need to pivot from that. These guys at the NMRA are doing a lot of good. They just spent an hour and 25 minutes explaining what they're doing. There was no politician speak fluff. I did not, I better not use that reference. It'll turn into a politics war. But there's no politician speaker beating around the bush. They've given you very specific examples of how they're engaging, changing, working to become a better organization. So be sure to check out the video, and as a reward, with your comment you've entered, and under my dime, I will pay for a membership in addition to mine, and we'll be renewed or new members together. So thanks for your time, guys. I understand the kid thing. I've got a 10 and 12-year-old that are probably tearing up my basement or something right now. So I completely understand that.
What's the matter?
I had to attend to an emergency because we lost a piece of a toy in the sink, which I was thinking it was an actual emergency, but it turns out that's what it was.
That is an emergency. That is an emergency. If you never taken a locomotive apart, I mean, that is an emergency. Have you never taken a locomotive apart and dropped a screw on the floor? I mean, come on.
Not
These
on
are emergency
purpose.
situations. No, it's never on purpose.
Yes, I've also had to save pieces of it to glue back together because I accidentally dropped it in transport and cried for a few days. So yes, I've experienced that as well.
Life's a funny thing. They grow, and you're like, when is this going to be over? And then they get older, and you're like, oh, I want them back small again. They were so cute. So
I know. It's like, I'm gonna miss it. But and this is outside of my normal work hours. Like I usually try to work during the day when they're in school, so that I'm not distracted and that I don't take away from them. So, but yeah, I hope that I get another chance to speak with you so that you guys can drill me and ask me all the questions that you want to. And I'm so sorry about the time mix up, but I just really am happy to still be in the community. There's some good people here. So
we'll have you back on anytime. I don't do that many live streams these days, but I'll try to schedule you back if there's things you want to talk about. We're going to keep you guys up to date. If you don't follow me on Facebook, it's facebook.com/HO Scale Product Reviews. And you can see so much about what I'm going to do with the NMRA. I'm going to try to attend meetings. I'm going to just try to be more involved. Keyword try, but definitely we're going to do the membership and we're going to take you along on the journey. So hopefully people can follow that and see the value that we just covered in 1 hour and almost 30 minutes. So thanks for your time, guys. And you guys have a good evening. Gordy, get some rest. Sorry for keeping you up late. I appreciate everything.
Sorry, Gordy. Bye, you guys.
Well, don't worry, I've still got work to do. I've got the 3D printers to reset yet. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you, James.
All right. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Cheers, guys.